Okay, so now we're going to talk about systems. And in talking about systems, what this really comes out of is whether it's in a one-on-one interaction or within a group or a team or a organization, kind of what is the way that people who are interacting with each other, how do they govern themselves? And this research all comes out of research on different family types. And so let me kind of walk through the three family types, and then we'll go a little deeper into them. And Wade, break in any time if you want me to go a little bit deeper. So the one we're maybe most familiar with is what I call a closed system. And a closed system, and what I'm also calling emergent system on the right-hand side of this diagram. These are both situations where there's inequality or power distance. So there's somebody who's got the power in a family. Maybe that's the parents or even just the father. In a work situation, that would be management or leadership or the boss. And in a closed system, the boss believes that they have the answer, that they know what needs to be done, and that what they want to do is break that answer up into tasks, or break what they want to get done up into tasks, assign those tasks to people, and then use the threat of punishment, of negative reinforcement, in order to get people to do what they ask them to do. And when whoever has the power actually knows everything that needs to be done, this is a very, very efficient way of getting things done. And so, if you're running an assembly line, or you have, you're running a military, and you want everything to be done in a very precise way, and you don't want any deviance from the norm, the closed system is a powerful way to get adherence. And what it uses is negative reinforcement. So if somebody deviates, like say you're speeding down the highway at 60 miles per hour and the speed limit is 55, well, the police use negative reinforcement. They'll give you a ticket, or they'll haul you off to jail if you're going too fast on the highway. The opposite situation from that, in a situation where there's somebody who's in charge, where there's somebody who's got power, is what I call emergent system. In an emergent system, instead of using negative reinforcement, positive reinforcement is used. And this is very effective when whoever has the power knows maybe what they want to get as an outcome, but isn't quite sure how to get that outcome, or maybe isn't even really sure of the outcome, but knows they need to go and be innovative. They would give positive reinforcement to people who deviate in productive ways. So
Elon Musk.
What's that?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. So that deviance of putting the car up in space. That's like the ability to take risks and have, in your emergent system, to allow many people to take risks, and where people are successful or producing value for the system, giving rewards or positive reinforcement to those people in the system. And that, instead of punishing those people who don't adhere to a standard, it's just not feeding or not investing in people who are not creating positive, successful results for the system. Both of these systems, so whether it's closed system, which is getting adherence to a standard, which is when the leadership has the answer and they want somebody to just implement, that can be powerful and very efficient. But if there's not a great deal of clarity about what there is to do when the situation is unclear. So example, selling and finding people to sell to, or fighting fires. In these kind of situations, it's not really possible to predict exactly what needs to be done. What you need is to set people out and to have people be adaptive, and to have the person with the most information take the lead, and other people be able to engage with them and come up with a better solution. So this kind of adaptivity and innovativeness and positive deviance and creativity and innovation all comes out of a emergent system where there's positive reinforcement of people taking risks and being successful in those risks. And there's not negative reinforcement that shuts people down from taking risks. And, when there's an inequality or a power distance situation, when there's some people who have power and some people who don't, the real question for the people in power is in what situations does it make sense to use negative reinforcement or have a closed system versus use positive reinforcement and have an emergent system. And down here on the bottom, let me just kind of go through the words a little bit, is that in a closed system, what you're looking to do is to is to really exploit and create efficiencies. Not exploit in a negative way, but to really get to the most efficient outcome. You're looking to do that by punishing any deviance from the norm, seeking adherence to standards, and you get some certainty in what you're going to bring, consistency. So if you go into a McDonald's or a Starbucks, what you'd see, or maybe more a McDonald's than a Starbucks, what you see is a lot of adherence to a standard, and where you start to deviate from the standard, there's punishment for that. You get less value, you're treasured less as an employee as you deviate, maybe even fired.
Versus a chef who gets to make up his own and is rewarded for making up his own menus.
Yeah, so and when you see many restaurants who are on the continuum of being a very, very, very closed kind of almost assembly line system, to being ones where the chef is, you're looking for the chef to be very creative and innovative and always come up with new ideas and new possibilities. But both of these things have value at certain times. This is a micro conversation. So sometimes closed system is really valuable, and sometimes emergent system is really valuable. So when there's, in the situation where there's not that power distance, where there's not somebody who's in charge, somebody who's the leader, somebody who's the manager versus kind of the people who work for those people, it's a peer situation. And in a peer situation, there's nobody to, it becomes more important to get some sort of agreement, to come to a sense of what everybody wants to do, and to move from that sense of kind of shared agreement, shared consensus, and to move as a unit. So the goal here is to get buy-in. It's a very time-intensive process, but at the same time,
I would guess that the best example of that would be our forefathers who set up the country.
Yeah, so getting 100 or whatever, 70, 80 people into a room and trying to come up with what's the Declaration of Independence, they spent weeks upon weeks sitting there and going back and forth because everybody, or enough of them at least to sign the document, had to agree. However, the nice part about an open system is once you come to that agreement, it creates a platform to be able to ask or dictate that somebody take leadership. So in an open system, there's a space for the system to come to agreement across all peers in the system that there's value to using a closed system or using an emergent system to get stuff done. Because either of those are far, far, far more efficient than an open system. Open system is tedious and takes a tremendous amount of process. But in an open system, what you get is tremendous buy-in. Everybody feels heard. Everybody feels a part of the process. And the assumption here is that what you're really looking for is the best answer in the system. Now, sometimes that can lead to the lowest common denominator, and sometimes you do a little bit better. But that's the challenge of an open system. In an open system, there's not positional leadership. There may be people who individually are able to exert soft power or are able to exert acts of leadership. But once that kind of leadership is there, you have kind of a little bit of a closed system or an emergent system.
The Supreme Court comes to mind for me on that one.
Yeah, I think that's a great example. It's a great example where there's a quote unquote leadership role, but it's at a bigger level. All these 9 people are sitting as peers.
He gets to assign opinion writing.
Yeah, so to some extent, there's a closed system power that the Chief Justice has. But in practice, day to day, it's an open system with 9 peers. That's a great example. And that's kind of how these things work together. That this open system, there's personal leadership, but to some extent, it's a space of peer equality that creates the space that creates a platform for coming to a common agreement, a common set of understandings, a lot of buy-in. That creates the space, it creates a clearing for a closed system for a closed system leadership or emergent system leadership. This closed system is really about control. And control is a useful and powerful thing at times, sometimes enabling creativity and innovation, and even deviance is a powerful and important thing at times. And sometimes it's important to get buy-in amongst peers and treat everybody as an equal. And the trick is in knowing the right situation for each one of these three things, knowing when you want to have control and consistency and a lack of deviance, knowing when you want to have deviance, when you need people to be very creative and innovative, and knowing when you need to treat everybody as a peer. So that's these three systems. And it's really, it's less about one being better than the other, but that they all serve very specific purposes and they all work in tandem with each other. And that successful leaders need to be very masterful of all three. Anything else I should talk about, Wade?
Oh, that's great.
Okay, let me stop there.
Really good, actually. I'm going to try to